What up, everybody? My name is Alton Chisholm. I am an emotional self-mastery coach. I am a tech professional, and I am also an entrepreneur. So on today's venting session, which I like to call these, are just my venting sessions, I wanted to talk about the current tech industry. So there's a lot of things going on in the current tech industry. We're seeing a lot of layoffs, a lot of weird things happening, like culture shifts, culture changes, and I kind of really wanted to focus on that today, and then also actually provide some sort of value that I think to help people deal with these situations. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the shift in the big tech industry. So Facebook, Google, like all the big tech firms. So what I've noticed from the outside in and just talking to different friends at different levels within the companies, from just developers to as high as SVPs, what I've begun to notice is that there's been a huge culture shift, and we can speculate, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to speculate on why I think these things are changing and why certain things are happening in the way that they are. Um, I think that the days of big tech being a fun place to work and a place that embodies like a good company culture and that good tech culture is kind of going by the wayside now that more people outside of the tech are seeing how much money you can make in the tech industry. So you're getting people with different company cultures going in and taking over leadership roles within these tech companies. So you see all the bad press about Google and Facebook and how their company culture has shifted, and people don't feel like they're getting the same type of love and energy they used to get when those companies first came out and it was everybody's dream company to work for. Um, my clients are either self-employed or tech professionals. I get to hear like different perspectives when we talk, and then with my friends, I get to hear their perspectives as well. Um, I won't call out a particular company for their the things that they're doing that are completely negative, but I'd say I'm seeing what's happening across the board. And in terms of layoffs, so I have a friend of mine who got laid off twice within the calendar year. Got a job, he's working there for about a year and a half. Got laid off at one of the big tech companies, and then a few months later he got hit with a second layoff from that company. And so there's a lot of like different sort of like anxiety that comes up and different types of stresses that happen when you just get hit twice in the same year. Like that's rough. So it's from the friend perspective and working with them on like how to deal with that and manage that stress and thinking like, hey man, you'll get through this. Me personally, I got laid off January of last year, and it was completely unsuspected for me. Mostly because of what I was told. I was told that they had plans for me to bring me on, and then I was also responsible for a lot of people being stressed out and coming to me and me talking to them about making sure just kind of keeping the ship going, keeping straight. So yeah, definitely caught off guard. And anybody who knows me personally knows that I don't care about the company that I work for. I care about the people, and I felt good about the people that I worked with at that company. So didn't have any negative like things to say about the people that I worked with. It's because I really liked working with them. I was more caught off guard because I'm like, oh well, then what was the point of this? Because like if I would have known that was gonna happen, I would be like, cool. I don't even worry about it. If a layoff is coming, is gonna hit me. I'm not gonna bounce. I'm just gonna do my thing, get everything situated, and then already have my next role lined up when the layoff date happens. So it's a little bit more transparency. Primarily because I've been laid off a few times in my career, and it just doesn't really have the same effect on me as it would have on someone else. Um, so yeah, it's one of the things that I want to talk about. So I guess one of the main points that I wanted to bring up is the emotional issues that happen when people get laid off. So a lot of people immediately start to stress out, right? Because where's your money coming up from? Where's your income? Like, how are you going to pay your bills? if you haven't saved well or any of that stuff, if you're responsible for other human beings, like you have kids or you're married or you're taking care of your parents or you're helping out with your family, like that comes into play as well when you get laid off. And so everybody handles their things differently. These are some things that I do when I'm dealing with a lot of stress at work or I'm dealing with a layoff, and something that I dealt with my layoff last year. So the first thing I do is I like to just go do something within nature. I feel like nature just always helps me. The number one for me is the beach. Now that I'm in New York, I don't get that same option of going to the beach, especially in January. It's freezing out here. So I had to find supplements, right? So I went to the park, right? And I can walk around in the park, hang out for a little bit. If it's not too cold, I can go barefoot. I do really love walking barefoot in the sand or on the grass. It really just helps calm me down and help me relax. Another thing that I like to do when I'm dealing with a lot of like work stress or something that just kind of catches me out of nowhere is practice my breath work. So there's different types of breathing techniques that you can look up that may work better for you. The particular breathing technique that I do involves 5 deep breaths. The first 3 breaths are regular, and then the last 2 deep breaths, there's a pause in between the deep breaths. And yeah, that kind of really just helps me settle down. And then from there, I like to be around close friends and family that are supportive. I have a couple close friends here in New York that I would just go hang out with and spend time with. Uh, Back home in LA, I have obviously a lot more family and friends there that I can go and spend time with and kind of just get my head out of things. And then I'd say after a couple days, a week, you'd say now that you've given yourself time to process and deal with this, what are you gonna do? Like, what are your next steps? Those next steps should be actionable, right? You are going to find out, okay, do I want to stay within this industry? Like, it gives you so much stuff to think about when you've been laid off. What do I want to work on? Do I want to go retool? Should I retool? And so there's just so many different options that you have. For most people, if you got laid off, find out. I mean, look at the industry, right? What's going on within tech? Why am I being laid off? Is there something else I can do? And that's the first thing I did. So from my perspective, I started looking into tech and the layoffs, and the layoffs were hit the hardest in the product management space, and that's what I do. I've been a product manager or a product management consultant for the past 8 years, and we got hit the hardest, and we're still getting hit the hardest. There's an ongoing trend within the tech industry that I don't subscribe to, and I think it's going to catch up to us eventually. That product managers aren't really needed. It's just kind of a combination of project management and business, and you can kind of replace that with a program manager or a project manager. And I completely disagree. I think that's great if you're maintaining software and you don't really have a lot of innovation happening. But if you have innovation happening or you're building something new, you need a product manager, right? You need someone who's going to understand that product from the idea all the way in the market. Like, how are we going to build this? Is this the right way to build this? Once we get it in the market, like, is it going to make money? Have you done the research on that? And I feel like that is going to be critical when we start going back into the innovation part of technology and not necessarily on like how everything is kind of shifted in towards the maintenance portion of the tech field right now. So yeah, what I chose to do was do that research, and then once I did that research, I started to look into ways to retool. I started my career in data, and I was a DBA, and I did a lot of like data analytics, and I realized that that's the new hot trend that's not getting laid off. People are still being hired in data, within tech. Even data product managers are still being hired. Data is not going anywhere. So let me retool and start picking that up. And noticing that a lot of the stuff that I've did in the past, skill-wise, is not outdated, but the terms that I used back 10 years ago are completely outdated. So let me update my resume. Let me retool. Let me see what the new trends are. And that way I'm become more employable in the future going forward. So just knowing that you've been laid off, you dealing with a lot of stress. Maybe I need to retool. What are the things that I can do to make sure that I'm successful? I really wanted to touch on the anxiety around being laid off, and the big anxiety of possibly being laid off, right? There's a lot of people stressed out within this industry, from your entry level person to your senior executive, right? The industry is so dynamic right now. We just don't know when it's going to settle, and you may think that you're safe and then find out that you're not. So it's been a tough market. So um, a personal friend of mine, I reached out to when I was looking for jobs, looking for opportunities. They were at one of the big tech companies, and reached out to them, and they were like, "Yeah, no worries, I got you. I'll refer you in. And then just give me. I got a meeting coming up. Give me a little bit of time, and I'll get back to you." They got back to me after their meeting to find out they got laid off the same day. So it was really rough for them. And they were like, "Man, like I didn't expect this either," and blah blah blah. And like, you're going through that phase, and this particular person, this friend of mine, decided to take the time off and travel. Right? They just, you know what, got laid off. Luckily, I have some savings, so took 2 weeks and traveled both domestically and internationally. And from there, they were able to come back, resettle. It took them a little bit of time to find their next role, but they were just way more prepared and way more dialed in. And so I share that story because persistence, right? Don't give up. There's still hiring, and being able to stay calm and stay focused and retooling will definitely help people make it from just working and like getting laid off, and then now what do you do next? Yeah, so I touched on it briefly in my intro, but I wanted to talk about the shifting cultures. I gave one of my examples of what I think is happening with people from outside of tech realizing how much money tech is making and bringing their culture with them from a leadership perspective, and it's kind of like ruining things for a lot of people in tech that are used to a certain work-life balance, a certain lifestyle, and how that's going to affect things going forward. I don't think it's going to go backwards. I think that we really might be in the end days of that type of tech work environment. However, I do think things are going to shift for the better, for the companies that are going either completely remote or optional hybrid. Me personally, even though I've been remote for a very long time, I go into the office just because I do like that face-to-face people time. So if I get the opportunity to go in the office, I will. But I just don't like I don't like being told, okay, you have to go in the office every Monday, every Wednesday, or blah blah blah. Like, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like, because I'm not like I probably will go in 5 days a week, right? But just being told that kind of like bugs me a little bit. I know I'm a little different, but it's kind of like having the option of like, you know what, today's a rough Tuesday, but I want to stay home and work, versus, okay, it's a rough Tuesday, but Tuesday's the day I got in the office, so now I'm walking in the office with an attitude. And I talked about this in some of my other videos that people may have seen. I work best from home. I used to think I would not like it, and I realized I'm just way more productive. And the reason why I'm way more productive is because when I'm in the office, I'm always talking to everybody. So I'm the person who's like walk around the office, making jokes, making new friends, like just really kind of like being the social butterfly that I am in my personal life. I take that with me to work. And so, do I get my work done like that? Yeah, I still get my work done, but I notice that I'll be the person who may slow down someone else because they can't, work as fast as I do. They don't have the same type of work styles I do. So when I'm home, I realize I get things done a lot faster, like not only in work, but when I get things done faster and better from home, I also have time to cook healthier and eat cleaner. I'm not eating out every day. I'm not ordering fast food and bringing it with me to the office. So the health benefits that I see from working remote or optional hybrid, I think will negate the changes in the tech industry in terms of a lot of people coming from outside tech into tech because they make more money. Actually, just had a friend just get a new job in a big tech company, and he had worked outside of tech in the same field for 15 years. Very nose to the grind work culture and like hardcore work culture, and he's excited about the opportunity. I'm like, hey man, but you're one of the people that I was talking to him about this. Like, hey, I think like your type of work culture now being moved into tech is kind of what's shifting things. So how are you going to handle that? And it's interesting to hear like his response of how he plans on integrating his style of being a leader and being a a senior executive and being from an outside industry where it's more hardcore, nose to the grind work, and bringing the okay, you're still gonna put up high quality work, but you're going to be held to a standard that I'm bringing over. And so just hearing him talk through that, I think like he'll make a pretty good transition. So yeah, I just checked my notes and I left off a pretty big point. So where do you go to retool? So Udemy. Udemy is fairly popular, so a lot of people who may see this will already know what it is, but it's mostly for those who have not heard of it. Um, Udemy is a great way to go out and find very cheap ways to get educated in the space. And in the past, it wasn't really looked at as a good quality source of getting training. But nowadays, you can literally put that you took a Udemy course on this, and people will actually look at that and take that serious. I've also been along the lines of recommending people get different certifications. From my experience in the tech industry, certifications have been more valuable than degrees. I have a degree so that's how computer science, and I feel like my certifications have gotten me more jobs than my computer science degree. Similar to my last video, I will end this video with a little personal story. So I'm going to combine a couple personal stories to end this video. We're going to talk about my best working environment and my worst working environment, and then how the lessons I learned from those and how I now use those experiences moving forward. So I will start with the worst working environment first. So the absolute worst working environment I've ever been in. I worked for a company, and I was dealing with a boss who had very little emotional regulation. He was just always upset or angry or stressed about something, and it was just like a nightmare to not only me but to the entire team. And I'm usually very good with dealing with people who have high stress and high anxiety, and I'm usually able to handle that. But at that point in my life, I was also going through a lot, so I wasn't as good as I would like to have been. But the reason why the work environment was so bad and it was so toxic was because everything that I did was undermined. And I'd been in the industry for 6 years at that point. So it's something that I was very, very good at and very confident at what I was doing and knowing that it worked because I've done it repeatedly for multiple companies as a consultant. Like I go in, I work, I set these things up, I do it this way and it works. But if was able to go back and do that again, I would have handled it a lot differently. So I said the lesson that I learned was primarily I'm already in a bad spot, recognize that this person is in a bad spot, and probably would have left the situation sooner. But before leaving the situation, I would have worked with this person on a one-on-one level to go, hey man, what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Like, what's got you kind of all stressed out? Because like especially when you talk to people who are in positions of power, specifically in our world in the tech space, they don't do well with being questioned. They don't do well with being told that maybe they need to go see some help, right? It's a very tough thing for these people to handle. And so being able to, with the skill set I have now, I feel like I could have, done that in a way where it doesn't make them feel attacked. It just makes them more aware that, hey, like there's a problem here. I'm complaining to you about this. other coworkers are complaining to you about this, it's clearly not just us, right? There's something coming from you that maybe you should, look into and looking to work into. And it's basically being able to take ownership of that from my end and being able to manage up so that I don't have to deal with that, because it was bad. We had people quitting left and right. People were, threatening lawsuits, and it was just a really, really ugly, rough place to work. But got out of there. Should have got out of there sooner, and just hopefully now that I have the skill set, I can work with helping people do better. Now that I have clients that are openly looking for that, like I have people who are in leadership positions that are realizing, hey, I have people on my team quitting and people laying off. Like, what's going on? And that is really good to know there are people out there that see that for themselves and like, wait a minute, let me go talk to someone. Let me seek some sort of professional help in learning how to run my teams. A lot of people in tech don't have the best social skills, the best leadership skills. They're really good at their technical job, and now you're putting them into a position of management, which is more people, and if they don't have the best social skills or the best technical skills to handle that, and as someone who started off that way, I know it's very common in the industry, and I've seen it I still see it to this day. So now that I got the bad one out of the way, I will talk about my best working environment. So my best working environment was a dream for me in pretty much every way except for the salary. I was being paid well under market value. I managed people that were making more than twice as much as I was making. It didn't bother me. I don't care what other people make. Like, you make what you make. It was more on the fact that I know the company has the money to pay for this, so why am I being lowballed? But it was the best working environment. Like, my boss just really understood me, and he was a type of person that wanted high quality work and like high value work, but you got the ultimate freedom. Like, this is my first fully remote job, but there was an office, and I would go in the office pretty much every day. And he's like, "Hey man, go home." Like, he sent me home a couple times because like there's no need for you to be in the office. Like, go home, work, because it'd only be like 3 or 4 of us in the office at a time sometimes. But in terms of like his standard and his quality of work, it was very high. Like, he was very meticulous on how he wanted things done, and it put the pressure on me to make sure that I delivered, right? And also, like, if I wasn't having a good day, I could literally stop working, go home, sleep, and then wake up and finish my job, and he wouldn't care, right? As long as I didn't miss a deadline, as long as I didn't miss a meeting, as long as all my work was high quality, he didn't care where I was at, what part of the world I was in, did not care. I think I was in Europe at one point. I worked from every satellite office to get to meet my coworkers. All of it was paid for, and it was just a really dope work environment. The only thing that was like saving me from still being there was the fact that it was just underpaid. And so that tends to happen sometimes with companies. Like, you get this supremely amazing company culture, and then you get low pay. But that's what the big tech dream used to be. You get paid really well, and you get the company culture. So that's kind of what motivated me to create this video, was that, man, I'm just watching this stuff fade away, and like, that was the dream, right? You make good money, you do high quality work, but you also have a great work-life balance. And hopefully we see the shifts. If you're able to be lucky enough in the tech space to get a fully remote job or get an optional hybrid job where you get to choose what days you go into the office, that you get to maintain that level of not only autonomy, but in terms of work-life balance. So that wraps up my video today. Please like, comment, share if you found any sort of value in this. Sorry for the non-tech people that had to hear me talk about this, but that is majority of my audience is people in tech and people who run their own businesses. So I just had to put out this video for them. Anyway, take care, guys. Peace.